Welcome to the MemSQL No Show. I'm technology correspondent Lisa Martin, and today we're talking about the future of data analytics and data visualization. As we've been saying in social media, it's here. That's a nod to the fact that it's Halloween month, October. So two guests here to talk to you about this. Please welcome from MemSQL, we have Jordan Tigani, its Chief Product Officer. Jordan, good morning.
Hi, thanks for having me.
We're excited to talk with you today. And joining Jordan is Daniel Mintz, the Chief Data Evangelist for Looker. Daniel, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
All right, guys, so we're going to have a lively conversation in the next 15 minutes or so talking about the future of data analytics and visualization. And underneath that, three things we're going to talk to you about. The first one is what's going on, what's changing. Daniel's going to lead us off there. The second thing we're going to talk about is the COVID impact of data-driven decision-making. And we're going to unpack data-driven and really get good insight into what is that, what isn't that. And then the third thing that we're going to share with you is the Looker and MemSQL solution together and how it's impacting businesses and many types of industries. As always, please feel free to join the conversation, drop us a comment or a question in the live stream, and we will get to your question. All right, with that said, Daniel, let's kick things off with you. With respect to data analytics and data visualization, right now, what is going on? What are some of the big changes?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, a great thing to sort of zero in on. You know, I think the biggest change that I see is that there's just this enormous growth in the number of people inside any organization who want access to data. You know, it used to be that there was a small crew of weirdos like myself and, you know, I think I can say like Jordan, who really wanted access to data. We understood, you know, hey, this can give us superpowers that can allow us to make better decisions. But for most people, they kind of did their jobs and didn't worry too much about data. And that's changed dramatically. I think in large measure, it's been driven by the sort of revolution on the personal side, right? That we expect data in our personal lives constantly because of these, you know, magical little computers that we carry around in our pockets that are constantly giving us data to help us, you know, make better decisions in our personal lives. And so I think people arrive at the workplace expecting the same. And so I think what I'm seeing more and more is that the companies that are really driving innovation are figuring out ways to put the right insight in the right hands at the right moment. So they're not forcing folks to come to a new tool and learn how to use that tool in order to get access to data, but instead are figuring out ways to go meet people where they already are, you know, push data into Slack, push data to people's phones, send them, you know, text messages when something's really gone awry, and do all that driven by data. So, you know, that removing that friction, removing that barrier to entry, I think has just driven the adoption through the roof.
And in terms of the adoption, I was thinking about that, as you said, let's not force folks to go to a separate tool to access data. Let's reduce the chaos, reduce the bottlenecks. Jordan, question for you though. One of the things that we talk about often with MemSQL is the freshness of data. Talk to us about that and the imperative nature in terms of not just allowing folks to pushing data to where they are, but ensuring that it is fresh.
Sure. So I think, you know, using the metaphor of freshness, if you just think about like a supermarket, and you have a supermarket that, you know, perhaps it's during COVID-19, and all of a sudden people start, you know, there's a run on toilet paper. You know, you look at two different supermarkets. One of those kind of analyzes data in the traditional way, where, you know, they look at their inventory levels at the end of the day, they place new orders, they do some analysis on how, you know, what's changing. They place an order, and by that time, all the suppliers are out of toilet paper. Versus the other supermarket that kind of is able to sort of in real time detect changes, detect what's happening. You know, maybe they recognize that their shelves are empty, and can send an alert, and somebody go ahead and reorder before everybody else notices, and they actually, you know, can get in contact with the supplier, or maybe they can even you know, reduce that time even more by, you know, kind of detecting changes in behavior and sort of having automatic detection and they can, as soon as that run starts, they can trigger an extra order with suppliers. So there's so many cases where kind of even, a lot of times people say, well, I don't need real-time data. I don't need, I'm happy looking at what happened yesterday or what happened last week. But I think as you get fresher and fresher data, you can recognize that there's a real competitive advantage. And I think you kind of look at the financial services industry, and they have gone more and more with kind of reducing the time to decision making, from when an event happens to when they can make a decision, and you reduce it so far that then you can even take the humans out of the loop. And I think that's when it starts to get super interesting, where I think the step one is giving the humans the ability to see what's happening in real time. But then step two is, okay, well, you can, to be able to act even faster, you can have automated decision making based on your data. But you need to build that on top of a framework of really strong data delivery, and a data platform.
And Jordan, just quickly, in terms of the volume of data that's being generated everywhere, data center, at the edge, et cetera, when you talked about the AI influence, I'm just curious if your thoughts are, with that data volume, humans can't manage all that. So there's going to have to be the influence of AI to facilitate that. Because as you pointed out with some great examples that many of us have lived through, real-time data, probably in this situation, is even more critical in so many more applications than we would have thought.
Yeah, I mean, there's still a lot of stuff that's just run by a spreadsheet, and Looker is an amazing visualization tool, but probably the most common visualization tool is a spreadsheet. But spreadsheets are really limited in terms of, like, you have all of your data there, and you can kind of get a feel for it and get a sense for it. But in so many industries, the data sizes are exploding. When I was at Google, I think they had something like nine products with 1 billion users. Even if you had a spreadsheet with 1 billion rows, it wouldn't make any sense. And I think even you look outside of people like Google, like it's just with the web and with mobile, it's pretty common for even smaller organizations to have millions of users, and in that case, you kind of have to run on data, and because you can't talk to all your users, you can't interview them. You need something to be able to sort of handle that scale. And I'm sort of not even, I think that's sort of, big data, I think, was the big hot term of several years ago. But I think we're still reeling from some of the implications of that. I think we've been able to handle kind of some of the scale of collecting that data, but I don't think we've gotten good at okay, now that we've got it, what do we do with it?
So Daniel, help us unpack that a little bit more. There is a collective, which is a joint customer of Looker and MemSQL, live streaming video, which we're all so dependent on now, not just for entertainment at home, but in the workplace. Give us a little bit of an understanding of how Looker and MemSQL are helping collectively transform how they're delivering video streaming.
Yeah, I mean, I think it really goes to what Jordan was talking about the freshness mattering, right? That, as data gets faster, as it's coming in closer to when whatever it's representing actually happened, it doesn't just change. It's not the difference between a 24-hour ETL cycle where the data that you get in is yesterday's data, and a 1 hour or 15-minute ETL cycle where the data is, just represents what just happened. It's not a difference of degree, it's a difference of kind. The kinds of things that you can do with data that's only 15 minutes old or an hour old are just fundamentally different than what you can do with data that's from yesterday. And so, the ability to give, in Collective's case, the ability to give their customers a real-time view into what's happening with their videos just changes the kinds of things that they can do. Because, if you're trying to figure out which video to promote on social, if you wait till tomorrow and that's when you first get a report on sort of what happened with the video, it's too late. Like you've missed the opportunity, right? And so I just think that the ability to really understand at this massive scale what's happening in something really close to real time just changes the way that people do business. And so, Collective's been able to just improve the experience for their customers. They've been able to, create whole new revenue streams for themselves by offering premium analytics on top of Looker and MemSQL. They've got that real-time monitoring across all of the different applications and network devices that are, accessing their content. So I just think it's really a fundamentally different thing that they were able to do because of the fresh nature of the data.
And one thing quickly before we move on to talking about the COVID impact is in the Collective example that you just talked about, you talked in the very beginning of our session today about needing to be able to deliver analytics where people are instead of forcing them to go to another tool. So give me just a snapshot of what Collective is able to do, in terms of Slack and namely going where the users are and driving up that adoption.
Yeah, I mean, we see that just across the board, right? The adoption on every time that we push out a new integration between Looker and a tool that workplace tool that people are using, the adoption curve is just extraordinary, right? So the Slack bot that allows Looker to push either scheduled reports or alerts into Slack, or even for you in Slack to like just paste a Looker link, and then it goes, hey, do you want to import that chart so that everybody can look at it here in Slack? The adoption on that has been tremendous. The same with things like the ability to pull data into Salesforce or into Zendesk or into Jira, right? These places where people are already working, because the thing to remember is that for most of these people, their job isn't data. Their job is whatever their job is, whether that's a marketer or a salesperson or a support person, or a product manager, whatever their job is, that's their job. And so to the extent that they understand why having data and access to data will make them better at their job, they're going to be excited about that, as long as there's not too much friction for them to get access to that data. And so when you can put the data in the tools that they're already in, that eliminates the friction, and it very quickly shows them the benefit of having data to make better decisions. And so, it used to be, oh, I need to make a decision this afternoon. I put in a request for data and the data team says, we'll get to that, next week. Well, that doesn't work for me because I have to make a decision this afternoon. And so, people would just go with their gut and make whatever best decision they could given their gut. But now, and Collective's a great example where their customers are asking for custom dashboards, and that used to be a big engineering process. Now it's something that an account manager can whip up in 15 minutes and say, yeah, here's your custom dashboard that you just asked for. Here's a new way to look at this data. And so I think that, sort of agile methodology, that speed to value, is both about the freshness of the data and about the tools that are delivering it and their flexibility and ability to sort of keep up with the change in business today.
Speaking of changes, let's move into our second topic, which is the impact that COVID is having on data-driven decision-making. Daniel, we're going to stick with you. You see the term data-driven everywhere. It was even used by California's governor in the very beginning of the pandemic about how they were going to be data-driven making decisions, which they didn't do, by the way. But you have a different thought on data-driven. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't remember any time in my life where the public has been as interested in charts and graphs as they are right now. People are understandably, waking up every day and they want to check the latest numbers from their geography. But I think the thing to remember is that, people talk about being data driven, but that's not really the goal. The goal is to be data informed, right? Because we have lots of tools available to us to help us make better decisions. And fundamentally, that's what we're trying to do, is make good decisions. And data is absolutely one of those tools. It's an extraordinarily powerful tool, but it's not the only tool. And it's not a tool that when we get it, we should throw out all the other things that we've been using. Our instinct, our gut, our professional judgment is really valuable. That's why people, get hired, because they know their space. They have, an intuitive feel for how things work. And so that's great. They should absolutely bring that to the table and keep it as one of the tools. But when you can then integrate data as well, and so make data informed decisions, that's really what we're going for.
Jordan, question for you. As the Chief Product Officer for MemSQL, your conversations with customers the last 7 months or so during such a massive pivot in every aspect of our lives and business, what are some of the things that you're seeing with respect to some of the things Daniel talked about in terms of getting that data that's fresh, but also being able to still have a marriage and a happy medium between the gut level decision still being somewhat relevant and having the data where you need it to help make an informed decision.
Well, I think one of the interesting things is that, I mean, Daniel was talking about there's a bunch of other signals that people use to make decisions and not just data. But after COVID, we're flying blind on a lot of those things. And so people who are used to just, I think human beings are really good at kind of assembling various pieces and then making, building up a pattern and making a judgment. And just a lot of the things that people rely on are no longer there. Back to the supermarket case, like, if you kind of are used to just sort of looking at the parking lot and seeing how full it is, or looking at the shelves and see how empty they are, or listening to the buzz of, like, there's just a bunch of things that you can get in an office environment. You can get, to understand morale, understand what people are doing, that you can't get when everybody's working from home. And, I think, McKinsey, I just saw a report where, like 70% increase in digital delivery of goods and services. And people are spending more on analytics. And I think at the same time where they're spending a lot less on other things, because like they grasp onto analytics as something that they can, is a way they have to use that as a way to understand their business, because the other ways that they've been trying to do it are no longer as valid. And there's still a bunch of signals and tools that people use outside of just sort of kind of pure data analysis. Because if you just purely rely on the data, that can get dangerous. But I think people are needing the data more and more.
All right, guys, let's go into our last topic here in the last couple of minutes. Jordan, I want to stick with you. Let's unpack a little bit more MemSQL and Looker. Some of the things that I know that you've said before is that what's essential for this, if we look at the technology, is that concurrency and scalability are essential. Help us understand that, especially in the context of like COVID dashboards.
Sure. I mean, so MemSQL, some of the things that it does really well is being able to handle, fresh data, getting data in really quickly, handle high concurrency, lots of users, having kind of internet-facing dashboards where you want to have thousands of users, and each one is doing different drill downs at the same time, and you may have really complex dashboards that need to do lots of queries. Looker is fantastic. Sorry, MemSQL is fantastic at that, and I think MemSQL plus Looker works extremely well because Looker has decided that they weren't going to try to do the queries themselves. They were going to rely on the underlying systems for that, the underlying data analytics systems. And whereas a lot of other tools will say, no, we're going to pull all the data in and we're going to sort of do it on our own, which leads to scalability, freshness, privacy, and security problems. Looker pushes all that down to the underlying database. And so there's this really nice marriage of technologies and sweet spots where MemSQL makes Looker look good because it makes it really fast, and kind of Looker makes MemSQL look good as well. So I think I'm really excited by the joint use cases and the joint customers that we've seen, and hopefully we'll see more and more of those in the future.
Thanks, Jordan. Daniel, last question for you in the last minute or so that we have. As the chief data evangelist, I think data weirdo, as you may have called yourself, and Jordan in the beginning of our session today, what excites you about the potential going forward into calendar year 2021 with the volume of data that's available for businesses and consumers to really not just survive this time, but thrive?
Yeah, I mean, mostly I'm just excited to be done with 2020. It's been a year. Yeah, no, I mean, I think everything we've talked about today really points at it, right? It's like the volume of data that people are dealing with is larger than ever. The velocity that it's coming in at is higher than ever. the variety of sources that it's coming from is larger than ever. And so to have, an amazing set of tools like MemSQL and Looker to really put that in front of the largest possible audience it really is transformative for businesses. And so I'm just excited to see, all of the amazing things that our joint customers do with that.
Well, we better let you both go so you can get back to dealing with those customers. Daniel, thank you so much for spending some time with us on the No Show today. We appreciate it. And Jordan, always great to see you. Thank you for sharing your insights.
Thanks, Lisa. Thanks, Daniel.
For my guests, I'm Lisa Martin. You've been watching the MemSQL No Show. We're going to see you guys in a couple weeks with a brand new topic. Thanks for watching.